Hello and welcome to GG Weekend Watch, kindly sponsored by BetMGM, where we are looking ahead, hopefully, to a cracking weekend of action with myself, Dave Young, and Andrew Mount, provided the weather plays ball with us. But we're just going to carry on, preview these races as though everything is going ahead as per, because as we've just been saying before we started recording, we don't really fancy a show where we're previewing bumpers for jumpers or jumpers for bumpers or whatever it is nowadays. So hopefully we can also keep the ball rolling from our good results last week, because we had a really good time with things. Pick Dory winning at 5-2 for Andrew. Grey Dawning at 2-1 also for Andrew. Slate Lane 4-1, 1 for Dave. Boot Hill 11-4, 1 for Andrew and myself. Famous Bridge 9-4, 1 for Andrew and Dave. I gave 3 tips. I promised that this was our producer that put this in. I'm not just reading this to give myself a pat on the back, but I gave 3 tips. Crambo placed at 5-1, Boot Hill won at 11-4, and Credo finished second at 11-2. 4 winners in a place from 8 tips from Andrew, and Dave also with 2 winners as well. So lads, very well done all round. Hopefully we can keep it up as we head to Newbury for our opener. This is a 0-150 handicap hurdle for 4-year-olds and over 2 mile 4.5 furlongs at 140. Competitive little event to kickstart us here, Dave. So who did you like in our opener?
Yeah, it is a good looking race, to be fair. There's a few I think are worth mentioning. There'll be 2 that I will be betting. So I just want to give Soaring Glory a mention. He's entered in the 2 mile hurdle at Newcastle as well. I think Kevin Brogan's jocked up there with a few rides, so I think they want to run at Newcastle, so I don't know if he'll come in here. But he's now ever nearing a mark that he won the Betfair hurdle off in 2021. That's over 2 miles. That's at this track. I think he's been plotted for that again this year, so make a note of that for when he races again in February. This race, obviously, the one we need to talk about. I've got to mention my mate Sebastopol. Napped him on his penultimate start. Cannot believe he went off at 7-1. I said I thought he'd be about a 5-2 poke. He's got a claimer on today or on Saturday, and that will mean that his mark will be £3 lower than when he dotted up at Newton Abbot. I like him round here, right? He beat Stage Star last season in a novice's chase. He was giving him £5. He beat him 5 lengths, so that form obviously sounds really good now. The only tiny worry with him is he does want good ground, and although it's going to dry out, it might end up being a bit tacky or a little bit sticky, so that might not suit him. But he's a stupidly big price, like 18s or 20s is about. So I will be back in Sebastopol. I'll take a wind dart at him. I'll also take a wind dart at Rock My Way for Sid Hosey, because I'm probably going to keep tipping this horse every time he runs. Although they've applied cheap pieces and they've put Freddie Gingon on board, so that's positive signs as far as I'm concerned. The trip probably does suit him better than the 3 miles, which I did think would suit him at Cheltenham, but he ran really well behind Springwell Bay. It was obviously a good thing in that race. I think Rock My Way's got a proper chance, so I'll have him as another wind dart. I will just quickly talk about Jet Powered, though, because he's taken up a big chunk of this market. He's been given an opening mark of 131. Now, the rules were changed, so novices had to run 4 times before they're allowed to go into a handicap. He's only had the 2 runs, but obviously he's not a novice anymore. So that I know he had like a little bit of a setback, but they would have had to get 2 more spins into him last season to run him in a handicap. I wonder whether they waited with him a little bit. But he beat like 110s rated horses that day by 11 lengths. So for all he won it quite easily, he's rated 2 stone better than those. And I don't know whether he is on the basis of form, but obviously on potential, he seemed like he could be quite a good horse. I'm keen to take him on is the long and short of it. And I'm going to take him on with Sebastopol and Rock My Way.
Big prices, Rock My Way. I was going to say, surely you're going to be tipping him again here. Just got to keep going with him at this stage. 14-1, Rock My Way, Sebastopol. 20-1 for a horse that loves this course. Andrew?
Yeah, really difficult opener, this one. The strongest opinion I had was to take on the favourite, Jet Powered, or one of the favourites, like Dave. He's a keen sorter, jumps out to his right. So I thought the wide open spaces of a left-handed Newbury aren't going to suit him. Uncle Bert, difficult to assess. He was favourite for that 20-runner handicap at Cheltenham last time when coming down. His yard has won this race before. Get a Tonic didn't take defensive on his chase debut at Warwick, clouted a couple, given a patient ride that day. Quickly back over hurdles, second run after a wind operation for Dan Skelton. I thought he should probably be favourite and might even start as favourite. Cobbler's Hill's probably best right-handed, seems to go better to Kempton. Irish Hill tends to win when favourite. He's never won when he wasn't starting at the head of the betting, and he's sort of 4th or 5th in. North Lodge is interesting, having gone first, second by a short head in a Grade 2 race before being beaten in Grade 1 company. That was back in 2022, though. been off for 602 days, and he's a hurdler trained by Alan King, running on a Saturday. So that's about 3 from 1,000 in the last few years, I think. So be very careful about that one. Off to a flyer, I thought had excuses in that Cheltenham race. Same race, I think it was, as Uncle Bert. Finished 11th of 20, but got badly hampered and perhaps is better than that form. And I see where Dave's coming from with Sebastopol. He's ground dependent, so if it does dry out, he'd have a squeak. But and again, Soaring Glory, he's a Fame and Glory 8-year-old or older, so he qualifies as a bet for me. But very weak in the betting so far. So worth keeping an eye on to see what happens with him. He's also probably best when fresh. This is his 3rd run of the season. The last one of those came just 19 days ago. So I thought between Get a Tonic and Off to a Flyer. I'll go Off to a Flyer as he's the biggest price, small each way, but not a confident selection.
12-1, but not too much confidence. It is one of those races, isn't it? But you're both taking on those at the head of the market anyway. I'm going to join you with that. I was between, so I'm pleased that you gave a good shout for Get a Tonic, but I was between her and Any Harm in Asking. So I'm pleased that Any Harm in Asking, I mean, he's a bigger price as well than of them, 16-1. And if Soaring Glory goes to Doncaster, then hopefully Any Harm is Asking. I mean, John Jones was already chopped up anyway, so naturally I wanted to be favouring him in this. Now, of course, he was a horse who had the big hold-up last season, finishing his season in December, but he's returned in pretty much the exact same form this time around. 2nd at Fosslas in the Welsh Champion Hurdle behind Nemean Lion at a decent price that day as well. And again, a decent price in the Greatwood last time out. Finished 9th, but that was off of a £4 rise, and he was just far back in the field, could never really land a blow. He's been given £1 back. Track that I think should suit his running style more so than Cheltenham did last time out. And I still think that there's a decent race in him, with this obviously being that bit more easy than last time out. So plenty of different ways to play that race in at Newbury as we head on to Grade 1 action now. Of course, the Fighting Fifth Hurdle for the 4-year-olds and over 2 miles at 155, where we get to see the best jump horse in training, Constitution Hill, hopefully strutting his stuff. But Andrew, betting wise, what are we doing?
I mean, you've got to back something each way. It should be illegal not to have an each way bet in this race. I'll take on the female contingent and maybe take on Not So Sleepy, because he's probably going to go from the front and try and sort of, you're not going to beat Constitution Hill that way, but the one who finishes 2nd to the favourite might come from miles off the pace. So I've had a couple of quid, and only a couple of quid each way on Benson, because that's all they'd let me have at 125-1. And I just thought, given Sandy Thompson was very quiet when this one made his debut earlier, 44 days ago, yard in much better form now, back at 2 miles, strongly run race, hopefully soft ground, stiff uphill finish. It's not impossible to see Benson sneaking 2nd place, 34 lengths behind the winner, Constitution Hill.
Exactly, play the margins then for where the 2nd horse Constitution Hill is going to finish, but big price play then, a good betting angle at least for Andrew in the Fighting Fifth there, Dave. So yeah, betting wise, what were you thinking with this one?
I mean, I'm a law-abiding citizen, but I think I would get life imprisonment if Andrew's law that you have to have a bet in this race was imposed, because I would never bet in this type of race. I do get it that something potentially could happen, but I just want to watch Constitution Hill go and win, leave it alone, because I think you can make bits of cases for everything in behind. I would sit back probably from my prison cell and watch Constitution Hill romp home.
That's a wonderful thought. Great. Yep, exactly. Just watch Constitution Hill do exactly what we're hoping he is going to do, and we're all expecting him to do, says Dave. Right, back to Newbury now for the Jerry Fielden and intermediate Premier Handicap Hurdle for 4-year-olds and over 2 miles at 2:15. Always a strong race with one eye on the future. Plenty of top horses have won this over the year, Dave. So who is the current and future star in this year's race?
I mean, I feel like I want to hand it back to Andrew, because he was nailing it to begin
with. Sorry, I was waffling on so much that poor old Kate couldn't get a word in edgeways to say, "You idiot, you're on the wrong race." But,
no, but I look at this one. Yeah. Like, Under Control's been well supported since the market came out. Bit of a wise guy's horse. Like, form does look good. She could be clear. We know Nikki Henderson sends like a likeable one in this race. She is short enough. Like, I don't know whether Andrew has it to hand, but like I tend to see lots of 6-4 favourites all shorter in these handicaps that I would imagine that they win more than they should in terms of like chance rate. Feel like it's dangerous to take them on, but they're priced about accordingly. Like, she's about the price given the hype and all that behind it. There is substance to her form as well. I wouldn't want to have a bet in this race. I think if you were looking at it, you'd want to probably look for an each way play, but they're all priced as they should be. Like the market's just spot on with this one. So I'll hand it back to Andrew because he sounded like he's got better information in this race than me. But I think Under Control could be like a pretty good horse. I don't think she'd actually have to be that good to even win this race, though, to be fair.
Yeah, fair enough then. So Under Control at the head of the market, 11-8. Andrew, we'll let you go at this one.
Yeah, it's quite funny to see Under Control running in the JP McManus colours. Co-by Nicky Henderson off a mark of 137, exactly the same mark and same ownership and same trainer as which Epitome won this race, won 3-1 favourite. And hindsight bet of the season, I think that was that. You know, given what she did after that. But yeah, it's the patient running style which does worry me, given the history of this race. So 6 of the last 10 winners made all. We saw Marie's Rock beaten in this, finishing out of the frame when 2-1 favourite. Finishing behind stablemate Floressa, who just pinged off in front and made the running. So second favourite Brentford Hope has made the running in the past, doesn't always though. So I was just going to take a chance with our champ for Chris Gordon, usually a front runner. Now he was beaten last time out when seeking a hat trick, but that Ascot run looked an afterthought after that Cheltenham win. Brought out quickly, and the ground was softer than ideal. So maybe our champ can run a good race from the front under Rex Dingle.
16-1 then for our champ. So nice price runner in that one. I'm going to be very unoriginal. I'm not looking away from Under Control at the head of the market. She just, as you both said there, she has such a similar profile to previous winners of this race. I think she's got the perfect profile for this. Still only a 4-year-old, but goodness me, she was so progressive last year, winning 3 of her 4 starts in this country, and for Nicky Henderson to go with that debut win in France. And the only time she was beaten in her career was in the Grade 2 Mares Novices Hurdle at Cheltenham, when just never really involved. But bouncing right back to win at Cheltenham then in April, and again winning at Sandown in the Championship Novices Final Handicap Hurdle, which, as you both said there, form that has worked out really well. With second, Iberico Lord fairly dotted up in the Great Wood next time out. Arcube, who was third, won convincingly at Sandown the other week. General Madrano, who was fourth, won his next 2 over fences. Even Tapley, who finished 6th in that, won a Kempton Handicap Hurdle well the other week. So it's one of the strongest pieces of form from last season, and she arguably could have won by even further than she did. Such was the manner of ease that she came through with her run then. So I thought that she was going to go for the Great Wood. So it was interesting that Nicky Henderson sent Iberico Lord there, and that decision was justified no ends. But why this mare then has been saved for this, I think, is pretty notable off of the £9 rise, which I still think is very fair. So unoriginal from me, but head of the market. Right now, one of the other big races of the weekend up for next. This is the Coral Gold Cup Premier Handicap Chase for 4-year-olds and over 3 mile 2 at 250 at Newbury, of course. 7-1 the field, headed by Complete Unknown. So Andrew, the Coral Gold Cup, floor is yours.
Yeah, this is an absolute belter, as you'd expect. And I'm going with Midnight River. Horse I'm a big fan of, and has got a real octo pattern to his name, and you'd probably guess I'm going to tip this one up. I just love backing him on the back of a defeat. He's got a fantastic record when he was beaten on his latest start, as he was on his comeback at Wetherby when he was a modest third in the Charlie Hall Chase. Signed off last season with a win in the 3 mile 1 handicap chase at Aintree on Grand National Day. And yeah, everything's right for him. He's 10-1 generally now. I think he'll start as favourite for this. Now in Mile and Mission, you've got to worry about the form of the John McConnell yards. You'd like to see him have a winner or 2 before Saturday. Of the others I was looking at, Zanza, of course, our old friend who loves Newbury, and for years I was willing them to run him in this race, and they never did, and finally they have. He's not exactly set the world alight in his last few starts, but 3 from 4 over fences at Newbury. I've saved on him. I thought Remastered had a squeak for David Pipe. Complete Unknowns only have 5 chase runs. That's not been a positive angle in recent years in this race. So most recent, I think the last 10 winners have all had at least 6 starts over fences. Where you go back a bit further, that stat's perhaps not as significant. And Bill Baxter, who's also entered the rehearsal chase, is a possibility. He's 4 from 4 left-handed since the wind operation. Right-handed Carlisle was no help to him last time out. So if he comes here instead of Newcastle, I'll probably have to have something on. But yeah, really confident in Midnight River here. So I'll just dig out the stats for you about his record following a defeat. Yeah, I mean he's won 4 of his last 5 when he was beaten on his latest start. In total, 7 wins from 11 on the back of a defeat. A couple of thirds of 4 and a 7th place. So proper Oxo horse. Get on Midnight River.
I had a feeling, because I remember you flagged this angle up with Midnight River prior to the Charlie Hill, because of course not much was expected of him then, but I remember you making the case that if he's beaten here in the manner we're expecting, next time out is the way to go with Midnight River for the Oxo pattern. David, you were celebrating in the background then when Andrew revealed that he was signing with Midnight River. I take it you agree.
Yeah, it's good as well, because like sometimes you have a bit of a, I feel like you get a bit of a handle on these types of races, and then you sit down with well-esteemed judges and then they pick something else and you think, oh crap, what have I missed out on? But I haven't missed anything. I've gone like almost switched roles on this one. So this is a race that I'm mad into my trends on. I do my own little stats thing on it. I do worry sometimes that I might steer the stats in the direction of the horse that I like anyway, but I haven't done in this instance. But I'd like, no, you can prove anything with stats. Anyway, I'm going to run it through in that perspective rather than talking about form, right? There are 5 in the last 10 years stats that are the most relevant that have produced the last 10 winners. So all 10 of them had this, at least 2 wins over fences. They raced at 3 mile plus before. They'd either won at Newbury if they'd run there, that's 3 out of 3, or they'd not run at Newbury at all, so that's the other 7 out of 10. They carry between 10 stone 8 and 11 stone 6, and they had at least 6 runs over fences. So the 5 horses that pick that: Midnight River, Eldorado Allen, Dusart, Zanza, and then Garlaw. But Garlaw's probably going to go run in the rehearsal. So it does whittle it down a bit, but there's loads of horses that were 4 out of 5 in there. This is obviously a race that people trend horses for, and then you can see the obvious candidates. Anyway, we'll stick 3 more in there that are 9 out of 10. 1 at about 3 miles, which includes 2 miles, 7.5. 8 between 6 and 8, that's 9 of the last 10, and then ran this season 9 out of 10. Midnight River is the only horse of those 5 that then makes all of those. And then there's a few that are, I want to say, less relevant, but they're not. They're still okay stats, sort of 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 for one of them. Rated 146 plus. Finished top 3 last time out, so Midnight River sneaks in that because the horse in you pulled up. Priced 12 to 1 or less, 8 out of the last 10 and 12 of the last 15, and they ran over fences this season. So Midnight River comes out on top after all of that. Marla Mission noses himself into contention, but as Andrew's touched on, John McConnell has been 40 odd days or 50 days since he's had a winner, but he has had a couple that were close. Sean Bowen lost his irons on a ride that would have won, so I worry about it a slight bit, but don't rule him up just because of that. And then Eldorado Allen at a big price. He sneaks in. He's got loads of runs which wouldn't be typical, and his win was just at the 2 miles, 7.5, but he's too big a price. The one trend I have ignored this year is second season novices. Used to be the wise guy way to pick a horse in this, but in the last 10 it's been 50-50. They either have or they haven't, and in the last 15 it's been 7 of 15, so that's an irrelevant stat now. So the long and the short of it is Midnight River will win the Coral Gold Cup. Of that I have no doubts, but the close ones that were up there, Marla Mission, I do think he's got a genuine chance. So I'm betting Midnight River to win, I'm betting Marla Mission to win, and I'm going to have a little each way on Eldorado Allen. There is one firm out there offering 7 places each way. He's about a 20s or 25 to 1 poke. He will be there or thereabouts, Eldorado Allen, but Midnight River will win, I think.
Just to clarify there at the end, I think beautifully done though. So a pair of you two in agreement. Midnight River, a 10 to 1 shot. I think I'm right in saying he's Harry Skelton's favourite horse as well. And there's a little video clip that got put up earlier on social media, and he looks like the biggest dude of a horse ever. So yeah, almost hope that you're both right with my heart, not with my pocket though, because I'm disagreeing, because I'm going with Stolen Silver. I was between him and Complete Unknown. Stolen Silver at his current price. I like the shock face, 14 to 1. Let me tell you exactly why. I loved his win last time out. Yes, people will say, oh, he's just got this fantastic record when fresh, but I'm really hoping people are going to dismiss him on that basis and say, yeah, but he does go well fresh. So that's probably why he was able to do what he did 49 days ago. But I think that I'm getting a bigger price because that's the angle people are going to take with him, because he improved for the step up in trip to 3 miles for the first time in his career. He's unexposed as a stayer, but he has all of that experience from running in the hustle and bustle of those 2.5 mile handicap chases at Cheltenham. He's now settling much more than he used to as well, so I don't have much fear about him over settling in this big field race. He'll be prominently ridden, which I really want in here as well, and he managed to win that off of a mark of 150. Super competitive field of runners. hopefully, again, then he can jump soundly and see out this trip in good style off of one of the top weights in here with the £7 rise. So Stolen Silver, 14-1 for me, but both of you two very keen on Midnight River. Definite divided opinion there. And we have another staying handicap chase up next. This is, of course, the Rehearsal Premier Handicap Chase up at Newcastle for 4-year-olds and over 2 miles 7 at 3:05, where we have the naughty enigma, that is Shishkin, getting a run in here, hopefully so, prior to the King George. But he is a short price to carry a mark of 173 to victory here. He's pushed a whole load of horses out the weight. So, Dave, can he win the Rehearsal?
Yeah, he can. And I think these 2 races being back-to-back is actually quite nice. One thing quickly before I do that, there's only 4 horses worse rated than Stolen Silver on my trend stuff. He's forecast to come 15th, but obviously Blue King Daru was the worst priced horse last weekend, so that's probably a confidence booster for you. But this race, right, I know it wouldn't have happened, but imagine Shishkin held an entry in this and he hadn't run last weekend and he was in the Hennessy. That would have suited him down to the ground much more than a Rehearsal. A bigger field, it would have been like a longer distance. Obviously, he's not in there, but I don't know why. We should have had like a GoFundMe and supplemented him, but it was probably too late past the stage. Anyway, for the Rehearsal chase, I think it's a nice race for him to be brought into. We talk often about these good horses and trainers saying there's nowhere for him to go. Then they run in these races. I'm just glad that there's a few horses that aren't out the handicap, and the worst of them are only a handful of pounds out of it, because I could imagine the uproar of people saying Shishkin's ruining races for people because he's putting them out the handicap. I think he's got like an obvious proper chance. We talk about graded horses in a handicap. He's not only a graded horse, like he's a very, very top tier horse. It's one of those as well. I mean, this is worth a few quid for the winners. It's 40 grand for first, but it's still 15 grand for second. Can't imagine too many would be wanting to get too close and blow a mark if they weren't 100% sure if today was the day. The one we already mentioned for the Hennessy, or sorry, the Coral Gold Cup, Garlaw was in that race, but is also in here. I was interested in Garlaw stepping up in trip. I think they've got first-time cheap pieces on this time round. The worry we have got, though, is he's doubly entered. Bill Baxter's doubly entered, and so is That's All Right Gino. I think the last 2 that I mentioned will go to Newbury, which means this is going to cut up, and it's only going to be a 6-runner field. So the each-way play starts to drop out. The only perk with that is the bookies will probably offer better prices for the win-only perspective, but I fully expect Shishkin to win. I think it's a bit mad to be betting against him. I appreciate that you've refused the last day, but I can't see it happening again. I know it could. So I will have a small win dart on Garlaw because I've been waiting for him to step up and trip. I like the application of the cheap pieces. Didn't mind he'd run the last day. So I'll give him a bit of a squeak, but I'm just hoping that Shishkin shows what he can do, because if he doesn't win this or doesn't run really well, what do you do with him after? Like, you can't probably run him in a King George. He probably doesn't go for a Gold Cup. We might have to wait to see him in Aintree. It's just sad. I want to see good horses be good horses. So Shishkin, be a good horse. Do as you're told.
Do as you're told, Shishkin. Yeah, you're not getting any cheap pieces on now, so you haven't got many excuses. I was just trying to figure out where the 3-mile start is at Newcastle then in relation to where the stable yard is, but it's all behind the grandstand, so we can't really have too many excuses. Andrew, what did you like then?
Not Shishkin. I think you need your bumps felt if you want to back this one at 13-8. Absolutely ridiculous price. So, I mean, I know they're taking the cheap pieces off, but who's to say he won't do exactly what he did 7 days ago? He's probably going to be even more peed off on Saturday, having to go get up early in the cold and drive all the way to bloody Newcastle. So, I mean, no, don't be daft. Yeah, it's difficult to put up an alternative. I'll go Bill Baxter if he runs here, given that 4 from 4 left-handed record since the wind off. I mean, there's a couple of like rocked up for Ben Haslam. I mean, a Wave of the Sea, because it was a one at the Dublin Racing Festival a few years in succession. It's quite surprising to see him turn up for this yard. But JP McManus, Ben Haslam horses I like to back in Class 5 handicap, so I wouldn't be backing either in this one. I'm looking at the Empire Steel. Now, I mean, Elvis Mail beat him at Kelso last time. Elvis Mail's had 10 runs away from Kelso and Air and has lost them all. Empire Steel is another one who seemed to like Kelso, but when he ran, say, 5 weeks ago, Sadie Thompson was really struggling for winners. He then didn't have any runners for a couple of weeks, and they've come back this week, and they're running fantastically. I bet one of his in a bumper at Southwell earlier this week at 50-1 with I think a 30p rule 4. He's gone off at like 9-2 or even shorter, and Trade short running and finished second. They're all running out their skins. So I'll go Empire Steel, but I couldn't touch Shishkin with stolen money.
Empire Steel then, Steel with the stolen money instead. 11-2 then, taking on Shishkin at the head of the market. I'm pleased that you gave a good mention for Bill Baxter, though. I love this horse. He's actually the worst in at the weights here. He's officially rated 141, but he's running off of 147. Interesting, just before my eyes, Johnny Burke had originally been booked to ride. Lily Pinchin, who's just had a winner there at Lingfield, has now taken the ride, but a 10-1 shot. I just hope he goes here. I think he's got a much bigger chance, despite being so far out of the weights here, than if he went to Newbury. And I would be siding with him each way, because if Shishkin does jump off and consents to prove his best form, then he can defy that top weight. But I couldn't be backing him at that price to do that, even with money back concession, should he not jump off. So instead, I'll take Bill Baxter, super likable, winning 4 of his 6 last season, including with Topham, where he jumped beautifully. And there's little doubting this lad's attitude. And he should be a national horse, really, for this season. And I thought last time out at Carlisle was a fine starting point for him, giving weight away to higher rated rivals than him as well in that. And he just looked like he needed the run. So hopefully he'll go here and not Newbury. 10-1 Bill Baxter for me. Now we are back to Newbury again, and we sign off this section with a 0-150 handicap chase for 4-year-olds and over 2 miles at 325. Master Chewy heads the betting at 2-1. So Andrew, who's siding with here?
Yeah, this is an interesting little race. Master Chewy got into a real ding-dong battle with the Venetia Williams trained J-Lo at entry last time. Came off second best by 3/4 of a length. Now, J-Lo's due to run at Newbury on Friday. I think he'll get beat because quite a few of Venetia's first-time out winners have been chinned at short odds. We've just seen another one, actually, I think, at Lingfield. And I just wonder if Master Chewy that race might have taken quite a bit out of him. It was only 3 days ago. So he's the obvious one on what we've seen so far, but I just worry about the mark that race will leave. Bolger and Krug, if this was Kelso, you'd be all over him. He's showed a fantastic attitude to complete that hat-trick last time. He looked beat for much of the straight, rallied on the inside. But I'm going to go Red Stone, who needed that comeback run by all accounts when finishing 4th at J-Lo at Aintree. Was sort of 18-1 that day. First run since April, first run since the wind operation. Bounced back at Haydock last Saturday, absolutely bolted up by 20 lengths. And I just thought there was a lot more to come from him after that. And so ground might be a bit quicker than it was at Haydock, or surely will be. But I thought 3-1 about him over Master Chewy was probably the way to go in the race.
3-1 shot there for Real Stone to take on Master Chewy at the head of the market for Andrew. Dave, shaking your head.
It's just painful, isn't it? We're going to have to butt heads on this one, I'm afraid, Andrew. I think it was a Freudian slip. It was 3 weeks ago he ran, not 3 days ago, Master Chewy.
That's right, 3 weeks. Oh, sorry.
That's all right. 3 weeks. Yeah, Real Stone was a week ago, wasn't he? But just to like confirm that. I know you meant to say the 3 weeks, but Master Chewy battered Real Stone in that race at Aintree. He was 15 lengths behind. Real Stone's gone up £8 since for that Haydock win. Master Chewy's gone up as well, but they're running off of the same relative weights again. There is absolutely
Do you think an 18-1 Dan Skelton Drifter on its first run of the season, the first run since the wind up, was off for its life? And do you think you can judge that as as good as he is? I don't think you can take that literally.
No, but the difference is the horse is up £8 after winning last time. Like if it had run off the same mark, I could have understood it. But now he's off the same sort of thing. Master Chewy's just as, if not more, progressive than Real Stone as far as I'm concerned. That race at Aintree that we mentioned, loads of fences were doled off, which doesn't suit Master Chewy. His greatest asset was his jumping. He got into a bit of a ding-dong with that Jello, and the ground went against Master Chewy as well. He wants it quicker the better. So this drying out, I think, will suit him. He is obviously short enough now, but Master Chewy, I can do a spoiler alert already. He's one of my best bets of the entire weekend. I do really fancy him. Obviously, you got to tread carefully when they start to shorten up, especially considering we don't know what the ground's going to be like. Definitely, it could be chewed up by the time it gets to this race if they've had all the Friday and all the Saturday, and they could be dolling off fences, couldn't they, if the ground's and like frosty on one side of it. So all of those things considered, at the price at the moment, you don't need to be steaming in or getting excited. You can wait and see how things are. But I think Master Chewy, I said it before we ran the last time, he's at least a 140s horse. I think he's got at least another £7 or £8 up his sleeve. I do understand the argument with Real Stone, but he's making up a bit of a market for the sake of that, I think. Elixir the Nuts was obviously very good in the Holden Gold Cup. Freddie Gingle's going to set it up for Master Chewy. I really fancy Master Chewy, so we'll find out, won't we?
We would certainly will do. The pair of you two then butting heads at the head of the market. Master Chewy 2-1 fav, Real Stone 3-1. So we will see who has bragging rights then in that 325 at Newbury. Right. That is the end of that section. So, Dave, I'm going to throw it back to you, please. Again, we're taking the Cheltenham chat angle in here. So anything this weekend that you're looking forward to ahead of the festival come March?
There's loads for Cheltenham. Should we do anything from anywhere else first? Because I've only got one of them rather than reading off my whole list. Because one that people do need to pay attention to is a horse that I will tip up every time at this racecourse, this time of year, until he retires, which might be a couple of years. Scandyberg in the 335 on Friday, 25-1 each way. I love this horse. Right, proper plummet in the weights. Ground should suit it. I think it's definitely got an actual winning chance, but I would be gobsmacked if this horse isn't in the places. So Scandyberg in the 335 Friday from anywhere else, not in terms of Cheltenham focus. So sorry to ruin the order there.
Absolutely. Taking the running order into his own hands is Dave, but as long as Scandyberg goes in, we will not mind. Andrew, then I will allow you for anything from anywhere else before we get back to Cheltenham chat.
I'll mention one that I've tipped up in my column on GG.CO.UK for Friday, because I think he's also entered a race on Saturdays, just in case Friday's called off, and that's Carl Philippe, who for Fergal O'Brien, first time out record, 3 wins and a second coming on his chase debut when making a couple of serious jumping errors, but for which he might have run. And the other half interesting one is on Saturday, 12:30 at Newbury, Nassalam. He goes well fresh. This is his second run, but he also needs a small field. So he's won some good races second time out previously. I'm just wondering if there's a few too many runners for him. But if a few come out of this, then I might get involved with Nassalam. I think he's off top weight.
Yeah, he is off top weight in there, carrying the 12 stone, but the £3 claim off of his back in the 12:30 at Newbury. Go on then, Dave. Take away the Cheltenham chat.
Right, I will breathe in. People have tested their pens after noting down those extra horses for us, and they need a big old chunk of ink to get through these. I'll quickly skim through Friday, Saturday, Sunday as quick as I possibly can. Jericho de Repino runs for Nicky Henderson, been well supported recently. General 12-1 poke now for the Supreme. Expected to win this, and in doing so, he might shorten further. So think about him if you're wondering about March. Last season's Ballymore favourite Hermes Allen goes in the John Frankham. He didn't seem at his best in the spring. Had a wind-up cinch. Chasing's bound to bring more improvement out of him. This looks quite a deep grade too. There's lots of 140s horses in there. So if he was to win this, people are saying he needs to put up a 150s performance. I think he will just win it anyway. If he does, he's 20-1 for the Turners. That price won't last very long. So if you fancy him at all, bet him now for March. In the long distance hurdle on Friday, former Mayor's hurdle winner and current third favourite for the Stayers, Marie's Rock, faces off against Paisley Park and Dashwood Rasher. Spoiler alert, I fancy Dashwood Rasher in the race, but Marie's Rock, if she wins that, will probably shorten for March. Saturday, we've obviously got the fight in fifth for Constitution here. We've talked about that race. We've talked about Shishkin as well. But on Saturday over in Fairyhouse, Corbett's Cross goes over fences again. I think a few people were quite quick to write him off on his chase debut, but he looks a nice horse. He will take on Willie Mullins' Nick Rocket. That looks like a pretty decent matchup between the two of them. They're priced 20-1 and 16-1 respectively for the Brown Advisory. Whichever one of those wins, their price will halve for March. So if you like either of those for the race, think about betting them for March too. In the maiden hurdle, we get to see Ballyburn. He was supposed to run last Sunday. He didn't. He also takes on one of my horses to follow, Firefox, over 2 miles. Both these horses will probably stay a little bit further, so I'll quote prices for a couple of races. But Ballyburn's 10-1 for the Supreme. So we've got Jericho de Rupney for Nicky Henderson. We've got Ballyburn, Willie Mullins, Nicky Henderson doing headbutting before the Supreme. But he's 6-1 favourite for a Ballymore. I think he'll go Supreme. I think Firefox would be more suited to a Ballymore. So if he's beat by Ballyburn, it doesn't really matter. He's a general 25-1 poke for that race. So he might run one in defeat and that price might shorten. Staying in Fairyhouse on Sunday, 3 grade ones. The Royal Bond looks like a nice race. Antibar Sladesdale for Rob Kerr. I hope Sladesdale runs another one of my horses to follow. He looks quite nice. He'll take on Encanto Bruno. If the ground dries out, he would have preference in Encanto Bruno. But I like Sladesdale. He's another general 25-1 shot for the Ballymore. In the Drinmore, Sharjah will win that race, but he jumps right-handed, so he won't win in March. Keep an eye on how Found a 50 runs. He's also 20-1 for the Turners, like I mentioned, for Hermes Allen. He could run quite well in defeat. I don't know if his price will shorten, but keep an eye on that. Had like a bit of a handle that he was 20 before the race. Then in a Hatton's Grace, Impere Pass takes on Ante-post over 2.5 miles. That distance means that Impere Pass should take all the beating. He'll head down the champion hurdle route. Ante-post will be going back to try and win a stairs hurdle. But imagine Ante-post gets the better of Impere Pass. He's currently 6-1, second favourite for the stairs hurdle. So again, potentially think twice about that if conditions worsen and you think Ante-post could beat him. Another one to mention in there is Ashro Diamond. She's second favourite currently for the mares hurdle. I've mentioned Impere Pass. I've mentioned Ante-post. The market is focusing on those two. If she runs in here, she will bid to follow in the footsteps of fellow mares, Solarina, Apples Jade, and Honeysuckle, and all three of those won it on 3 times in succession. So Ashro Diamond, if she runs here, could be interesting.
Okay, like it a lot. Then if she does manage to go for that, then Ashra Diamond, she's currently an 11-1 shot in the Hatton's Grace, but we'll do an awful lot of learning. Loads of Turner's clues, it feels like, this weekend as well, says Dave. Right, Andrew, match that.
A dark one for you runs at Newcastle called Constitution Hill. Could be one for the champion hurdle. Yeah, get on each way, Ante-post. Now, I was always also looking at the Hatton's Grace hurdle at Ferryhouse on Sunday. And the one I like is Buddy One, who won that handicap hurdle at Cheltenham, of course. One with a ton in hand. Mark put him up to 152. He's only rated £8 below Impere Passe now. And you look at, if you're a fan of top speed figures, Impere Passe 148, Buddy One 147, Ante-post 147. Now, the betting at the moment, although this isn't the final declaration, so it might not even run, but it's 6-4 on Impere Passe, 11-4 Ante-post, 14-1 Buddy One. So I think if he does run here, he's not going to be disgraced. He's also entered in the Grade 1 at Leopardstown over the Christmas period. And if a horse is going to make the leap from handicapper to Grade 1 in the stayers hurdle division, which we know, generally speaking, is pretty weak, then I think Buddy One could be the one. So he's a quarter distance winner. So if Paul Gilligan runs him at Ferryhouse on Sunday, I think he's one to have on your side. It might be worth having a glance at the Ante-post lists for the stairs hurdle as well to see what sort of pricing is, because if he does, prove up to Grade 1 standard in this race or at Leopardstown over Christmas, then he's obviously going to shorten up a lot for Cheltenham. The other one worth mentioning as well is I Am Maximus, the Irish national winner, of course. Now, he improved for a test of stamina last year. He ran 4th at Cheltenham behind the real whacker. And of course, it came from off the pace that day when you had to be on the front end. The real whacker made, or Jerry Colon was always prominent. Even, he was a little bit too far off the pace. Bronze, 50-1 third, was in second place for much of the race. I Am Maximus, clear best of those to come from off the pace. Goes to Ferryhouse, wins the Irish National as a relatively inexperienced individual, despite jumping out to his left on the right-handed track. And it's right-handed again. It's 2.5 miles. It's probably going to need it and improve for the run, I would have thought. But certainly for Cheltenham and Leopardstown as well over Christmas when he goes left-handed again, I think I Am Maximus is one to keep a close eye on.
I Am Maximus then, yeah, again, that used to be an enigma, now looks to have really found his niche, doesn't he, going forward? So plenty of Cheltenham horses then to go at. Now, looking back, though, to this weekend more immediately for bets this weekend. Dave, I'll go back to you, please, for your nap.
I mean, it's definitely going to be Master Chewy. I've got to play it safe. It could have been Midnight River, but I'm not that brave. So Master Chewy, as far as I'm concerned, will win the 325 on Saturday.
Master Chewy. Andrew, are you going to take him on in that race with the
No,
Midnight River?
I looked at that race for about 3 minutes. So, Midnight River. That's where I'm going. Strong nap in the race form in there is the Hennessy, now known at the Ladbrokes Trophy Coral Gold Cup handicap chase.
Chuck every single bookie in there, and we might eventually get the correct name from year to year then for the old Hennessy, the new Coral Gold Cup. And I'm going to go under control in the 2:15 at Newbury in the Jerry Fielding for my own nap. So 3 different naps there in different races as well. So thank you so much to Dave and to Andrew for all of their work on this week's show. Big thank you to you for watching. Big thank you to our sponsors, BetMGM. Best of luck with your bets this weekend, and we'll speak to you again next week.